Assalamu
Hello,
alaikum.
Ziana. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining. It's such a huge pleasure to have you at our live today. So I've given a brief introduction of you, your and your startup. I'll just give another introduction as well. Okay, you have a green bag project as well, which you're running with your 8-year-old son, which I think is a huge accomplishment. It's been running for 5 years, and I think it also shows okay, how we need to, involve young people
Yeah.
in our in this community as well. That's how they learn. Like a lot of people get into this landscape around the age of 20, like in their 20s. But I think learning about startup community at a very young age, it instills the practice and the behavior that you need to be in this landscape. So this project, Greenback Project, is co-founded by Ziana's 8-year-old son and her grandmother. It's a social initiative which is aimed at creating awareness about the impact of single-use plastic in our communities and provide zero waste alternatives, which I think is a very unique thing coming into Pakistan. Definitely, it's a very hard initiative to take as well in Pakistan, given it's a third world country, and I think our communities really struggle with utilizing environmental friendly practices, given how costly they can be, and not everyone is in the capacity to take on those initiatives. So I think it's a big thing that you guys are doing, and trying to achieve that sustainable development goal. So I would let you, Thorsa, introduce yourself to our viewers for today. So you have the floor. Please introduce yourself and your initiatives that you've taken in your whole career lifespan.
Uh, Thank you so much for the introduction, and really humbled and really glad to be here. So, two women doing some amazing work in digitizing entrepreneurs, supporting the female ecosystem. So, I'm really, really happy to be here and kind of participate in this. So, my name is Ziana Sakhya. Currently, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bechlo.pk, which, as you said, is a marketplace where we're bringing women into the formal e-commerce space. Prior currently with that, I also run the Greenback Project, which, by the way, is now run by my 12-year-old and 10-year-old, myself and my mother. So it's, my younger son has come into the program as well, and it's really interesting to see how the kids have such a fresh perspective on things like solving a problem, right? And I think that's something that's really unique to the startup ecosystem today as well, that a lot of businesses, when you come into them in the startup space, you start by solving a problem. And that's also how this is my third business that I'm doing with Bechlo.pk at the moment. And each time, the way I came into it was, I had no intention of starting a business at that time. I was actually very well set in my teaching career. Each time I started a business, and it's just came across a problem, did some research on it, realized, what, this is something that I can solve with the right people, and got into it. So alhamdulillah, I think if you have that mentality to solve a problem, and you couple it with good research, and obviously building up a team and understanding the need of a market, that's probably the easiest kind of shortcut per se to success, because you're solving for something that needs to be solved, as opposed to trying to go in to a new market with a new product which may or may not really have the need. So I think that's the first thing I kind of talk to female entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in general about, is like, whatever business you're doing, whatever service you're providing, is there a problem that you're solving? Because if there is a problem that you're solving for a certain target audience, chances of your product being successful or your business being successful is automatically a lot higher.
I agree. Yes, I definitely agree. And I think it's I think women is I've seen, just given she loves tech, and like I've come across so many women entrepreneurs, and this year, even though under She Loves Tech, there is even men can participate if their startup is very women centric. But I think in all our finalists this year were all women founders, and what I saw was that they all of them were solving a problem that was very known to us, a problem that is very close to home, very local, and very relevant to the Pakistan community.
Absolutely.
So it's your startup, especially in the landscape that we're living in. I think it should be very solution oriented. You should have a problem in mind, and you should know how to solve it, and obviously also to scale it at a larger community so it reaches more people. Ziana, thank you so much for introduction. I think you've done a brilliant job with mentorship as well. Like, we've had you as a mentor as well, and I really want to get into, because we've discussed, in our last live session, we discussed the problems, the barriers that women face in this community and in this landscape, and there have been many platforms where we've discussed that. I really want to get into the solutions that we can provide for these women. I think I want to take your perspective on mentorship and how relevant it is for women in this landscape. I think at times startup journey can be very isolating for women, and we often don't realize how integral mentorship is to our journeys. So if you could give a few advice to on the role of mentorship and networking that play in the success of a startup journey, I would really like to know, because all I've seen this year is that how willing mentors are to provide their time and their guidance to new early stage startups. So if you would like to talk about mentorship, and I know mentorship and networking are very two different tangents. Mentorship is, it can be very one-on-one, it could be in a group setting as well. And networking, on the other hand, I think it's an action that you take towards your startup yourself. You meet people willingly, you take out time, you go to events, network with people, and I think network can obviously lead to different avenues. It can lead to start partnerships as well, it can lead to funding. So I really wanted to talk about the role mentorship and networking takes, that it plays in the startup journey.
So I think that's such a great question, and that's something that's really close to my heart as well, because I'm actively mentoring both female and male entrepreneurs across different platforms. And I think what's been really amazing is that mentoring and networking are actually quite correlated as well, right? So you'll go to a networking event, and chances are you'll meet a mentor there.
Yes.
And I think what's also really changed nowadays is that the definition of a mentor has changed and evolved in the sense that it used to be kind of someone that you would think would be really hard to approach, somebody who's really, really qualified in a field, and you don't have access to them unless you know somebody in their family or somebody in their friends. But what's really interesting now in this space, in this day and age in 2024, is that you can reach out to somebody who's at a really high level in an organization, or you can find out about them through LinkedIn, right? So you can go on LinkedIn, you can find out, hi, I'm in a beauty industry, I'm developing these, healthcare products. You can do a quick search on LinkedIn, and you can find out who is running which kind of organization in the same space as you, or be it competitors, be it more established ones, and you can send them a message, and chances are they will reply to you. You know, so I think that's one thing that's really changed in the landscape over the last 5 years. I'd say mostly post-COVID as well. So I think mentors have definitely become a lot more accessible on a one-to-one basis. Secondly, organizations, right, like ecosystem enablers, like Circle Women, like, all the national incubation centers, different programs that are being run across the board. They have a pool of mentors. So if you connect with them, they will connect you with mentors, right? Like I know with Circle Women, you guys have the best, mentors on board, both from very high-end, high-level companies, multi-million-dollar companies, to small startups, to, your nano influencer program. Like organizations like Circle Women have access, and they've opened that access up to entrepreneurs, right? So the ability to be able to access mentors has really changed, and I think that's a hugely positive thing. But the need for mentors is also continuing to grow, right? So, for example, when we look at the male, even if we look in the tier 2, tier 3 SECC demographic, right, where women have predominantly been at home for a really long time due to lack of mobility, their own home, commitments, maybe social taboos, and now they're like starting to do these online businesses. If you compare them to like a male counterpart, like a brother or a cousin who's starting a business, he will go gully ke kone pe, they will sit at a coffee shop, a chai wala, and they will talk about all their business needs, right? अब उसमें इनका कोई बड़ा कजन होगा जिसकी ऑलरेडी एक उसी तरह की टेक्सटाइल का दुकान है, उसका कोई फ्रेंड होगा, they'll all sit together, they talk about the challenges and the opportunities in the space, and this new boy will have a lot of guidance automatically before he's even started his business, right? And what the women community was lacking was, because they're not leaving their homes, because a lot of the women in their families are already not in the business space, they've turned to Facebook groups, organizations like Circle, organizations like NICs, and now they're being able to access this mentorship. And what I've seen, and I'm sure you guys have seen in Circle's work as well, then the scale at which a woman learns and how receptive she is to feedback, to mentorship, they'll make really quick changes in their business. They're a lot more coachable.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen that as well. But
Yeah, I have.
so I feel like, you know, when you work with women and they have so much more to prove also, right? Like if they're a woman in their family starting business for the first time, the stakes are pretty high for them, because if they fail, possibly they're sending out a message to their family that, you know, humne to kaha tha, tum kyun kar rahi ho, you know? So they're really like looking out to learn. And now that we have mentors available, I think women should, all entrepreneurs should take this opportunity, talk to mentors, and understand that not all advice, you don't need to follow everything everybody is saying about your business.
Yes.
Understand your business core values, and definitely don't change your business according to 6 different mentors they're speaking to. Speak to mentors who are relevant to your industry, who you can relate to, and as well as who have a specific number of mentors that you're talking to, right? So you don't need to get advice from 10 different people. Start with one mentor or 2 mentors who are either you can relate to on a personal level, or you're in the same industry, or they have some specific expertise that you feel like will really help your business, and then follow their advice, and also feel free to challenge them, right? Because nobody knows your business better than you do, and definitely take their guidance on. But don't try and take too much from everywhere, because you can't be everything for everyone, right?
Yes,
So
I agree.
that's the one thing I think about mentorship that's really important, is that definitely keep your eyes out for them, talk to them, but then also respect their time. If you're booking a time with a mentor, make sure you show up on time. Make sure
Yes.
that you are understanding that they are taking out time from their schedules to provide this assistance to you. So make sure you respect that and go back to them, right? Send them an update. You know, I spoke to you last month, and this is what you told me, this is what I've done, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, and I just wanted to share my, you know, successes with you. And I found that, like, and when you come to networking, so I found that I was new to Pakistan. Like, I moved back to Pakistan after 15 years when I started Bechlo. And even though I've grown up in Pakistan, I did my BBA, I went to university here. I had, and my family comes from a conventional business background, I had no information or connection to the startup space, like at all. Like, I didn't know who to speak to or how to speak to it, or, you know, how to connect with, you know, different organizations. I went to one, you know, National Incubation Center, NIC Karachi event. I met a couple of people there. From there, we, you know, kind of connected. Some of us connected and met up for another coffee. Met another 6 or 7 people there. Then had, you know, there was an online webinar, joined that. And like, I feel like I have been so fortunate through this extra effort that I've been able to connect with absolutely everyone in the ecosystem, whether it's my competitors, who are now my friends and who have kind of worked together. हम लोग एक ही competition में एक ही prize के लिए compete कर रहे होते हैं, and yet we're all kind of helping each other, you know. And that's another thing that's really awesome about the space right now.
Yes.
Nobody's out to get you, you know. Nobody's like, people, I'm sure there are anomalies, but people are generally really friendly.
Yes.
They're really helpful. पार्टनरशिप्स जैसे आपने कहा, राइट, पार्टनरशिप्स इतनी आसानी से बन जाती हैं. तो जब तक आप नेटवर्किंग नहीं करेंगे, मेंटर्स को सीक आउट नहीं करेंगे, तो आपका जो ग्रोथ और आपको जो एक्सपर्टीज फ्री में इस वक्त मिल रही है, यू नो, उससे आपका पूरा बिजनेस का रोड मैप चेंज हो सकता है. And I feel like I really benefit from Bechlo. We have really benefited from that. A lot of our mentors are, you know, seasoned experts. There are people who we've met locally. There are people who are in a completely different industry, but they have previously worked in a similar space, and they've been able to share with us. And, you know, now we're at a point where we're being able to go forward. So I think networking and mentoring are both really important, and often they're connected. You know, you'll go to a networking session and you'll find your mentors through there. And mentors का जरूरी नहीं है, आप ये ज़हन में नहीं रखें कि आपको head of एक बड़ी कंपनी ही मेंटर कर सकती है. You know, you need to understand the layers of who has time to mentor you, who will be able to understand the challenges that you as a woman are also facing. A lot of the challenges we face are very different from what maybe a male founder would face, you know, at this point in time.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said, and I think one thing that really struck to me what you said is that you have to filter
Yeah.
the feedback that you get. Like you can't just take it to heart everything that someone says to you, and just really observe what everyone is saying. But not everything can be implemented. Everyone has their own journey. Plus, ये है कि find the right mentors. Not everyone is maybe suitable to even mentor you, or even understand what your startup journey is. You mentioned that Bechlo has really benefited from this, community. I really want to talk about Bechlo, about that you guys are, I think, doing a very similar thing to one of our projects. But I do want to understand, because you guys are utilizing online how how women can run home based businesses using online marketplaces. And I think marketplaces is like it's a very hard platform to get into. So I want to understand how relevant it is, the importance of digital. So which community do you guys work for? Like which set of women do you guys work with?
Right. So this is a really good question and happy to answer it. So the way we set out was we did some research and tried to understand कि okay fine ये जो Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram पे लोग product sell कर रहे हैं and buyers buy कर रहे हैं, what are the main products that are being bought and sold? So we categorize them into small businesses. So people who have a fashion brand, stationery brand, candles, hair care, they're running a small business and they're running like an Insta page, for example. Then we have those who are in the reseller community, which is predominantly on WhatsApp. Wholesale market से वो pictures ले रहे हैं, आगे resell कर रहे हैं अपना commission. फिर हमने एक identify किया pre-loved segment, because there's a lot of women who are selling their own pre-loved items, or they've curated a collection of pre-loved items, either from their friends and families or they're from the market, and they're trying to go with that, trying to earn an income through those channels, right? So we basically brought all of those three seller demographics together. And what we've noticed through our targeting is that the main market lies in tier 2 and like SECC, जिसमें हमारे खवातीन are very motivated to earn an income. They don't have huge budgets they're playing with, so they're not necessarily ready for the larger marketplaces जिसमें आपको inventory maintain करनी होती है, आपको एक certain level of maturity or expertise चाहिए. They're not also very tech savvy necessarily. They have access to a mobile phone, but that's pretty much it. They don't have laptops that they can work from, so they can't really necessarily work through very detailed apps or even very detailed, technical backends. They also don't have a lot of disposable income to spend on advertising. So when we created Bechlo, the entire idea was we will centralize your communication. So you come online, you create a free profile, you upload your products onto Bechlo. We'll have a digital review about it. We'll contact you if there's anything missing. We'll approve your product, right? And then once you get an order, we'll handle the DMs, we'll handle the messages. We'll send you a slip, you pack your item, our courier rider will pick it up from you, deliver it to the buyer. We'll collect the payment, deduct our commission, and send it over to you, right? So as a seller, you can focus on the three main things that you spend your day on, right? Your family, which is a huge part of our seller community's priority. They do have obligations at home. So they do want to be able to spend enough time with their family, caring for their children, elderly, whatever it is that their dynamic entails. And you will still earn an income because all you have to do is keep your product packed and ready, and we will handle the rest of it for you, right? So we really simplifying the entire order management process, which previously, according to our research, was taking up so much of their time, and it was such a hassle that a lot of them just stopped their businesses. क्योंकि अगर डिमांड आती थी तो वो भी एक प्रॉब्लम था क्योंकि डिमांड के साथ keep up, right? So again, it was a very problem oriented solution that we came up with. And then the other thing that we realized, which you're talking about as far as the digital literacy is concerned, the women needed some guidance, or they still need guidance as to basic things, right? As far as your Insta page is concerned, or your Facebook profile is concerned, or even your listing on Bechlo, like how to take a good picture. It's basic. You have a phone. We don't need you to do anything fancy, but we'll give you, like, we've made these YouTube tutorials, or we like do a walkthrough कि आप किसी भी प्लेन दीवार पे स्टिक ऑन हुक लगा दें, उस पे आप हैंगर पे अपने कपड़े लटकाएं तो वो तस्वीर अच्छी आएगी, दिन के टाइम पे आप तस्वीर लें. So very basic things like that has really been able to translate into sales for them. And they weren't able to kind of go anywhere and get this kind of information, right? how to write a product description, utilize the tools that are available on your phone, spell check kar lein aap, apni listing ko. So just very basic, tools
Yes.
and trainings that we should be able to give them. And then, for those of our sellers who want a little bit more help, we'll help them with costing. We'll talk to them about like bookkeeping, कि क्या आप अपनी कोई maintain कर रही हैं. The good thing is in our platform, there's also a seller dashboard. So, they'll see how many items they sold. They know their profit margin. They know how much commission we've deducted. कितनी payment उनको मिल गई है. So automatically ये जो सारा, handwriting वाला काम था, a lot of that has also been streamlined for them. And the idea of doing this was also that as they grow and they want access to financial services, the first question a bank or a lending financing organization is going to look for, even a grant, is where is your history? आप business कर रहे हैं तो वो किधर है? And now they can use that information and all that data that's available on their dashboard and say, here you go. This is what I've done. This is how long I've been for, and they don't have to pay for marketing. That's a huge, especially this day and age. Like we're at a point where we're struggling now with marketing costs because the taxes have increased and conversion costs have increased, and we can aggregate that and split it amongst our sales. So that's another kind of relief that from our sellers. That, and yes, at a certain point when you're big enough, we're happy for you to use this as an omni-channel, right? Have your own Instagram page. You need any help, we'll help you with it. And the idea is just to get everyone to grow together. Because as our sellers prosper, we prosper. The ecosystem prospers.
Yes.
So that's kind of, the entire process and the journey, and how the marketplace actually, as a marketplace, as an organization, yes, Bechlo.pk has a lot of challenges that it has to overcome because we have to manage demand, supply. But on a macro level, when you look at the sellers, their barriers to entry into the e-commerce space is significantly gone, right? They don't have to set up their own website. They don't have to spend on marketing. They don't have to do bookkeeping. So as a company, we're being able, and we have the team and we have the expertise to be able to overcome this. We're making that so much easier for our sellers. And alhamdulillah, we've had a really good response from both the buyer and seller end.
No, that's this is the first time hearing about Bechlo in such detail, and I think it's exceptional work because what I've learned from what you guys, you were telling me about Bechlo is that for every strata of women entrepreneurs, there's a different avenue. I think women who are already very tech savvy, and because work under circle women projects, there is we work with a lot of women who are under our digital literacy program. We work with a lot of women who are from low income backgrounds or mid-tier backgrounds, and they're not very aware of how to integrate themselves into digital spaces, and this space is for them. Maybe networking at a large event might not work similarly as it would for someone who's maybe participating in She Loves Tech, because someone from a She Loves Tech participant, might have the background privilege to actually go up and talk to someone who is a successful entrepreneur. They might have the words, right verbal language to actually convey how relevant their startup is. But there is something for everyone under in the startup community on how to bring their business into public. And I think spaces like e-commerce platforms is how they bring their products to public. I really want to know how so I think it's going on a different tangent, but I'm glad because I think it's really relevant for us to even gauge lower income communities in this startup landscape, because we encourage everyone to obviously apply to Aurora Tech and She Loves Tech, but obviously they are a disadvantaged group because of their lack of digital literacy, and they might not be able to perform as well as someone who has had the privilege to prepare. So I really want to know how किस तरह हम लो इनकम ग्रुप की औरतों को इंटीग्रेट कर सकते हैं स्टार्टअप लैंडस्केप में, क्योंकि शायद उनके पास वो एक्सेस ना हो कि वो जान सके कि अच्छा इस इस दिन ये इवेंट हुआ जा रहा है, इस दिन इधर हम नेटवर्क करने जा सकते हैं. घर में बैठ के अपना प्रोडक्ट सेल करना इज वेरी डिफरेंट एंड मोर एक्सेसिबल टू देम देन कमिंग टू एन इवेंट, स्पेंडिंग अ लॉट ऑफ मनी ऑन कम्यूट and take a lot of time from their day kyunki they might not have the time which I might have. So how can we spread this word across and integrate them more, if you have any idea on how to engage them more, because not everyone has the time and energy to do that, understandable, but at the same time it's very relevant. So if you would like to talk on that.
I think the main thing is basically like you said, right? Is first identifying what are the challenges, कहाँ ख़वातीन को मदद की ज़रूरत है, right? तो जब हमने networking कहा, absolutely I don't mean just physical networking. I think अब आजकल बहुत सारा एक नया trend जो again बहुत relevant है हमारे लिए कि WhatsApp groups हैं, ठीक है? आप WhatsApp group की communities में online webinars कर सकते हैं. You can do webinars on Zoom, you can do webinars on Google Meet. वो link share करें, get women together. Maybe a group of 10 women, एक mentor हो, वो 10 खवातीन अपने challenges discuss करें. जैसे अभी आपने कहा कि आपके पास एक Q&A का option है, या Instagram pages पे open up the floor कि अच्छा आपको क्या, what are the problems that you're facing, हम आपको किस तरह मदद कर सकते हैं. Maybe जैसे आपने अभी इस दफ़ा एक series बनाई है, इस तरह की series बन सकें कि हम आज e-commerce के बारे में बात करेंगे, आज हम food delivery businesses के बारे में बात करेंगे, आज हम fashion related business challenges के बारे में बात करेंगे. और ये जो सोशल मीडिया वाले प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं, दे हैव द अल्टीमेट रीच वेयर नाउ वुमेन जो एक गांव में भी बैठी हैं, एक फुली डेवलप्ड सिटी नहीं भी है, वहां से उनको पता चल रहा है कराची, लाहौर, इस्लामाबाद में क्या हो रहा है, इंटरनेशनली क्या हो रहा है. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल अरोरा टेक, it's a huge international competition, right? But it's available to Pakistan, and through a partner like Circle, it's being able to actually get to the community जहाँ आपका शीला स्टेक का जैसे प्रोग्राम पहुँचता है, right? तो I definitely agree कि to expect women कि वो अपने घर से निकल के ही सिर्फ events attend कर सकेंगी, I think that is unrealistic. एक demographic है जो जैसे for example pop-ups या exhibitions करता है, उसमें वो निकलती हैं, अपनी inventory भी लेती हैं, they are able to do that, but there's a lot of women who can't. तो definitely जिस तरह ये exhibitions भी होते हैं for example, I think उसमें भी अगर एक mentoring session ऑर्गेनाइजर्स अरेंज करें कि देखें दिस इज एन एग्जीबिशन दैट वी आर डूइंग, इस तरह की टारगेट ऑडियंस आएगी, इस तरह के आपको इस तरह कस्टमर से किस तरह डील करना है. आई थिंक इवन दैट वुड बी रियली रियली हेल्पफुल to increase conversions for people who are leaving their homes, but definitely online through Instagram pages, through WhatsApp groups, उसमें भी बहुत benefit है खवातीन के लिए, absolutely.
So thank you so much for talking about this. Ziana, I really want to know, this is my second last question before we move on to the last question. I really want to know कि अभी currently जो industry leads हैं, because during judging sessions and mentorship sessions, you have to be obviously at times very straightforward with how well the business is going to do. But currently, do you think the startup community in Pakistan is taking enough initiatives independently to bring in low-income women groups in the landscape, and just giving them थोड़ा सा लीवे कि अच्छा अगर कहीं पे they're not improving as much as they can, do you think कि थोड़ी सी उनको space दी जा रही है to grow, to nourish, and what initiatives do you think current incubation centers are taking? Yeah, if they're not taking, what initiatives do you think we should take in future to engage them more in our community? Because I think it's really relevant. I don't think our economy can improve unless all the communities in Pakistan coming together to have a startup, their own startups. If people from the same community come up with startups, we might not be able to succeed as a community as much as we can. So either agar already initiatives liye ja rahe hain, if you would want to talk about them, या फिर what initiatives should be taken?
So I think even in the last 18 months, I feel like there's a lot that is being done compared to pre-COVID, for example, right? So I think there are organizations. So I'm a huge fan of the incubation centers. I've been associated with NIC Karachi pretty much since I moved here 2.5 years ago, and they have been amazing. They look at you as a business, and they don't वो नहीं करते कि अच्छा आपका background क्या है, right? What is your business? How are you relevant? And even with their induction, right, like they do pitching sessions and they'll help you, right? So I'm a huge fan of incubation centers. I think they're doing a great job. A lot of the universities are now setting up incubation centers.
Yes.
It's a really positive step. Especially this year, I know a lot of the leading universities are launching their own incubation centers, which means that when they come out of business school or like from their bachelor's degrees, they'll have a real world exposure to entrepreneurship. And I think, again, women and men, that's both a really good option, because we have a huge female demographic in the universities as well right now, right? बाहर को job करने की इजाजत मिले नहीं मिले बाद में, alhamdulillah, it's come to a point where universities की access मिल रही है उनको. So I think those are really positives. I think international, like obviously what Circle is doing is phenomenal. The Standard Chartered Women in Tech program, again, phenomenal. The visa, HBL visa, She's Next program, they have gone across Pakistan, similar to the way Circle does. And, you know, wo handpick kar rahe hain. They're having online sessions. They're having physical sessions for those people who can come. Online sessions ka mix kar rahe hain, ki jisko physically jo interact or network kar sake, they should be able to capitalize on those. So I think there are a lot of initiatives that I'm aware of, at least living in Karachi, that are trying to go out into that demographic. Like State Bank of Pakistan recently, last week, they had a session where they talked about, they brought together female entrepreneurs, and they talked about their women-specific financing programs, right? And now they've involved the banks, and now the banks have to go ahead and promote this program. And obviously the banks के footprint है वो काफी ज़्यादा है और हर किस्म के areas में है, especially in the larger cities, even in the smaller cities. So abhi agendas, this agenda is definitely being looked at a lot more than it was. However, I still feel like we lack on the data part of it. कि हमारे पास कोई consolidated data नहीं है. So Bechlo is working. We have got 22,000 women on our platform. Circle is working. Circle has probably a lot more than that on their platform. You know, who are the other stakeholders who are working within आपके पास क्या pool है? You know, so if there's any way to, I think, aggregate that data, try to understand how many. So for example, we did a basic research where we came across that there's about 500,000 women buying and selling through Facebook groups. This was about 18 months ago, before a lot of the groups were shut down. And now we have no way of updating that data, right? Because वो group shut down हो गए, तो हम कहाँ से ढूंढें ये data? We know they're there, and this doesn't even include the individual pages, but it was a way for us to access that data. Now we have no way to update it, right? So if there's a way to aggregate the data, then it's easier to push policy, it's easier to push initiatives. We do know the audience is there, but until it's quantified and the work that each kind of, you know, different division is doing is kind of aggregated, I think that's the only gap that kind of remains. I do feel like काफी काम हो रहा है. Alhamdulillah, you know, I think it's a huge step for the Pakistani community to do this. But I think aggregation of data, I think, is one of those things that's still kind of lacking. But I'm hopeful. I'm an optimist, so I'm hopeful that we will come to a point where we can actually put numbers to the amount of, you know, micro entrepreneur, female micro entrepreneurs. You know, because they're not registered in the ecosystem.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think you've raised a very important point. That data is extremely important, and that's what Sadaf is also saying all the time. That the data we have is amazing, but what are we, you know, doing with it? So I completely agree. I think accumulating that data is extremely relevant to actually, you know, tap into those spaces. We've, you know, we've taken a lot of your time. I thank you so much for getting into such detail with every question. Before we end our session, I do want to ask about Aurora Tech, and why do you think these spaces are, how startups can benefit from these spaces? Because, you know, in first sight they are just competitions, and you might not see how beneficial they can be, and how it can link to you. Even if you don't win, just filling out the application form, how important it can be, and how you can, you know, it can make you think about so many things about your startup which we've not already thought of, which niche you're getting into. So application, even the application form, I think it's a very big learning process for someone who is Bilkul at an early stage. So if you would like to say a few words about such competitions and why you think these are beneficial for startups.
So I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think for me, a lot of competitions, especially like Aurora Tech, because I've done the application myself. And what I think is great is, number one, it really gives you the opportunity to sit down and pen down different aspects of your business. So as a founder, you'll know the vision behind it. You'll know मैंने क्यों शुरू किया है, क्या शुरू किया है, मेरी target audience कौन सी है. But old school, until you pen it down and you kind of segregate it, उस process में आपके सामने इतने question marks आते हैं कि you are just like, oh my god, I didn't think of it this way. Oh my god, you know, maybe this is what I need to do, or oh, this is great, you know, ये तो मैंने इस तरह कभी पहले सोचा ही नहीं था इसके बारे में. So I think the first things first, the application for Aurora Tech is very in depth. It's definitely very detailed. It's not something you can आप उसको लेके time दें, take your time, copy the questions down into a doc, answer them systematically, check your word count. And I think that is a really good stepping stone for just submitting that application is going to put you in a position where you've really done a SWOT analysis about your entire business over the 2 or 3 days that you spend doing it. So I think that is definitely. The second thing that I really like about the Aurora Tech application, which I haven't necessarily seen in other ones, they give you feedback on your application. So even if you don't get shortlisted, before the shortlisting process happens, every application will get a small feedback on your pitch deck and say, these are the things that we've noticed. So why don't you prepare for them in case you do get called for an interview, right? And I think that is just amazing that I can get industry experts from all over the world to have a look at my pitch deck, have a look at my application, and give me feedback so that I have time to prepare before the interview.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly.
So I think that just feels so inclusive, and it feels so like they're invested in me succeeding, as opposed to competitions where a lot of the times you'll feel like, a competition is made to exclude, right?
Yes.
But this approach is really inclusive. And I think it for me, that was really like, that was something like, oh my God, this is really cool. Whether I get interviewed, whether I get to the next level, whether I win, obviously it's a huge, huge competition. But that feedback and that feeling of inclusivity, I think that was really helpful for me as well. Yeah. The one thing I think that maybe Circle could do, or maybe, would be helpful for founders, is when there's such a large application, a lot of people get really overwhelmed and they'll kind of step back. So I think maybe like guidance sessions or like a quick overview of these are the categories, especially जो हमारी ख़वातीन है जिनको language barrier है, right? Like अगर वो अपने आप को English में इतना detail में नहीं express कर सकती, so maybe some information sessions on this is what the application looks like. These are the 5 main areas जहाँ ख़वातीन struggle करती हैं. We'll give you a quick walkthrough कि इस पे क्या लिखना चाहिए. I think that would really help people fill out the form better, which will then increase their chances of getting accepted or getting to the next level.
Yes, I completely agree, and that's definitely on agenda. So what we will be doing, we'll be definitely sharing a guideline video, which is for everyone who is here as a viewer. They can know that we will be sharing a video where we will be talking in depth on how to fill the form. And I think you're right, doing a webinar with people who have a language barrier, we can, do a session with them to make it more accessible for them. So that's definitely on the agenda. Thank you so much, Ziana, for joining. And talking in so much depth about the relevance of these platforms and the relevance of mentorship and networking sessions as well. I hope that everyone who has joined the session, they apply for the program. And before I end, I'd like to mention that Circle is actually doing a pitch deck review program as well, and it has started and everyone can apply to it, where we've connected with mentors and we will be giving in-depth feedback on startup and their pitches, so they can, before applying to Aurora Tech Awards, they can actually get a detailed feedback on what their pitches lack and how they can improve their pitch deck. So I would encourage everyone to apply to the program and get the feedback. We have amazing industry leads from Pakistan community, and they are on board to provide feedback. And Ziana is here as well. If you want to connect with Bechlo.pk, put your products on display for everyone to to expand your clientele. And I think it's a great opportunity to connect with her as well. So thank you for everyone for joining, and thank you, Ziana, for all the insights that you give. And we will be posting a recording of this session on our page, and so everyone can see. For those who couldn't join, everyone can join later and tap into the insights that Ziana gave us today. So thank you so much, Ziana, for your time. I hope we can connect again, and yes, we'd like to talk again regarding the relevant topic that we discussed today. Thank you.
Take care. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.